Hello and welcome back to the Eternal Dawn YouTube channel. I am your captain, Straw Hat Lucas. Today we are missing two of our crew members, the lovely navigator, Miss 3-Day Trip, and the wonderful historian and first mate, Kube of the Red Sea. They decided to rob Cross Guild, so we have no idea where they're at, but we did get a dended message recently from Kube saying, you know, they're around. So I'm just going to go through and let the other two say hi real quick. First up is the helmsman of the Eternal Dawn, Mr. Knack Reacts. How are we doing today, Knack?
What yak, guys? We're here to discuss chapter 1141, Older Women, and I can't wait to get into it.
I do love me some older women. Next up is one of my best friends in the whole wide world, the head cook of the Eternal Dawn, Mr. Vexus, the lurking legend. How are you doing today, Vex?
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Vexus, the lurking legend. Y'all can just call me Vex. I am stoked. Always a blast to cut into the next and greatest chapter of One Piece, but I'm pretty hyped.
So let me ask you a question on that. Is the next chapter is always the greatest chapter? Or
Always. We are just constantly raising the bar. And
Until you read
with
it.
that said, let's get into it.
As soon as you read it, then the next chapter will be the greatest.
Yeah,
Right?
it's Schrodinger's chapter. Yeah, so we're back at the cover story in a little bit of action this time, as we see page 1 broken and beaten on the floor. Ulti is angry, holding back tears of frustration, or trying to. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I need the cover story to hurry up.
Oh, I
This
totally
is
agree.
graphic. I don't
This
think
is
we
very
need to
graphic,
see
actually,
this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
No,
last cover story we got her saying like don't touch them, and then this cover story we're just getting the other angle to that. I thought it was
well, they
pretty
already
serious,
touched
though.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very
Pause.
serious. This dropping the same day that we found out that their father was killed unalived by some no-named pirates seeking revenge while he was on his way back to his children. Rest in peace, Hanafuda. You a real one that we've never known.
You stop. That
It's
guy's
it's
literally
really crazy.
evil.
They would literally they actually wrote unalive across the main cover story here. Like this is I think Knack brought it up. I don't think we've ever seen that before. This is crazy. This is actually crazy.
And it's not in katakana or anything like that. Like it's just
Graphic
straight
as
up
it gets.
English.
Yeah.
graphic as a gift. But what I mean by like with the I need the cover story, it just feels like, in my opinion, and I said this last chapter as well, it feels like Oda is kind of drawing it out a little bit more. You guys had said too, you know, we got some really spicy stuff there for a moment in the cover story, and then it felt like, you know, we got two cover pages that were basically the same panel, just slightly adjusted. I think he's trying to line it up with something happening in the story.
That's right.
I
He's
think
not
3
ready to
days
tie it
correct.
into the story yet.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think the funniest thing
Stretch.
is that, like, I don't know, like, as a One Piece fan, I'm sure
Stretching.
everybody's had the conversation. As a One Piece fan, I'm sure that everybody's had the conversation with somebody else who, like, kind of tries to dunk on One Piece who hasn't watched it, where it's like, oh yeah, it gets really good like 30 chapters in or something like that. I'm really hoping that this cover story pops off in about 3 more installments, so we can talk about the cover story the same way. Like, yeah, it really gets good about 30 chapters in, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of a dip in between volume
It's getting
of the
better,
cover
trust
story,
me.
but once it hits volume 31 of the pill, awesome.
It's so funny.
Yeah, it is. That's pretty good. So,
Going into the
getting
next
into
page.
going into the first page of the chapter, we see that Roto and Nami are escorting the injured guards from the castle to the village so that they can be seen by a doctor. And what is going on with Roto, guys? Like, from the dialogue here, he immediately tried to cover up for Nami, right? But
I just think he doesn't want to get in trouble.
I think that as well, but he doesn't seem nervous when he's like telling him, "Oh, it's nothing, don't worry, pal." Like, he doesn't seem as nervous as he was. Oh wait, no, I didn't notice this.
Yeah, he's totally
Just
nervous.
lay back and get some rest. Yeah, there's a little bit of like dots on the speech bubble at the top, like little like sweat bubbles coming off it.
Oh, he's he's literally sweating.
Yeah, no, I
the
see
whole time he's covered in sweat. Yeah.
He's and like the way
yeah.
he's talking to her, like, you really need to stop talking about this so loud. We're not even supposed to go up there. But yeah, the fact that they split up,
he's
very interesting.
Very interesting.
yeah, he's a skittish guy though, because like he was acting all big when he was behind the mask, like in Legoland and all that. But remember, he thought Scopper was like a ghost. He's like, oh, it's a benevolent spirit. Like, he's just
It's going to possess me.
it's just on brand. It's just on brand for him to just be like, I guess, like the straight man, and the Straw Hats are all kind of crazy, you know. So they're the crazy, and he's like trying to be something around them. I think it's pretty funny because it's been like a steady backboard for Nami to show a little bit more of her characterization instead of just being like in panels randomly, you know?
Yeah, I like that as well. I love money hungry Nami. I know it's a gag that can kind of get old sometimes, but like her crying to be like, I didn't get a single piece of gold or a diamond or anything. Like it's that's Nami, you know?
Yeah, it is funny, but it's also giving us the context, like right out the gate, that you know they are going off to get Loki by themselves. They're not taking Nami or Roto, and they, you know, they don't want the word to get back to Yarul.
Well, the Straw Hats are like, even though they're big head impy style a lot of the times, they are smart. Like sending Nami and Roto just gives them plausible deniability. We didn't know that that's what Zoro were going to do. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
I also gotta say, I love the flying ships. Like, I need more of this. It is so cool. Every time I see them, it just makes me so excited. But moving on, we are at the Treasure Tree Tour Group.
Absolute hype. This is like, I don't know, like after getting the mural drop, like this was kind of everything that I was hoping. And it was really, I don't know, it's really funny just to see like Frankie taking it all in. And I was wondering what his first thoughts and impressions or anything notable he was going to say. And people were also like wondering, like, is Frankie covering up something on the bottom central part of the mural? And he's just like, cool, thumbs up, that's a lot. Like, anyways, and he just immediately like deflects Frankie, and is just like, so how about this weather? Like, crazy.
his whole reaction to the mural was the communities. That's a hell of a lot to take in. Like, that's it.
Yeah, but we've had
Frankie
like weeks and weeks now of like mural videos and people like live streams cooking on it. We spent like a full 2 hours talking about it a couple weeks back, and it's just, and Frankie's just like, very cool. Anyways, like
moving on.
Anyways, what's up with that one?
It's so funny to me. Yeah. And him and Ripley just completely start shifting the conversation to talking about like, I guess like the geography and botany of this whole land that they're on, and the Atom Tree, because obviously that's his main prerogative, is the tree. That was he walked in here talking about the tree, and like he's gonna leave here talking about the tree. I respect that, but there's so much more to go over, and it's like we're sitting on like 3 poneglyphs that like Robin has never told us what any of them say all the way since back like in the Zhao arc, right? Which is crazy. And so this is like the most like Straw Hat thing ever. They see just like some like world breaking implications and some like crazy esoteric information, and they're just like,
right on. Yep.
Frankie's like, think about it in like linear form to like when Frankie saw that mural. He was like, oh my god, we need to tell Robin. Anyways, that's a lot to take in. So tell me about the infrastructure of Elbaf. So you guys live on the tree. So like,
I do want to touch on that.
We get like a lovely
Hogan village or whatever. Like, if this was the size of the Western village that we know, then this was a massive group of people. This could be giants that we don't even know or recognize.
I wonder how long ago
it just
was.
really, it puts the scale of things very, very much more. It like that's what Elbaf has kind of always been about, like since we got here, and even since before, is just like a level of like grandeur that we haven't really dealt with up until this point, and like except for maybe, I don't know, Reverse Mountain, but we've just seen a small fraction of the population here. If there's multiple of these villages, we've only seen West Village, and there's like a whole nother realm below and above where a lot of the main cast is as well. It's crazy, because I don't think Oda's gonna go out of his way to really flesh out every little nook and cranny, but because there are so many unknowns, like the potential is just crazy with what can and can't. You know, there's very little that can't be introduced, which is just
we don't even know
crazy.
If the village we saw Shanks in was the West Village.
I don't think
it has to be a coastal village. Yeah, because it has to be a coastal village.
We saw Colin there, so we can assume it's adjacent or the same. You know, we don't know, but,
true, but
I think it's pretty safe to assume, because Colin is there with Shanks.
The interesting part is like seeing Kid pull up like that. Where is that village where they watch Kid come up on the horizon? Because that's
where I'm coming from.
Icy. It wasn't the decrepit. So like perhaps that's on the outskirts, and somewhere you can actually take your ship up to the main village of Elbaf, the western village. I'm calling it the main village, but we have no idea at this point still. But there's got to be a way to get ships up here. So maybe there is a way through that river that we seen in that village, perhaps.
What if the whole what if what we thought was the ocean in that whole chapter was just painted by the sea painter stone or the sun painter stone or whatever, and so like Kid didn't actually even sink into like water, you know, like the sea. It was all like yeah, because we've seen them like sail on rainbows and shit like that. So there's ways for ships to just come straight up out of the ocean onto the second tier of Elbaf, right? That's clearly a thing.
Yep.
So I don't know. I don't know if I don't think that's the case. I think it'd be funny if because it could be, you know.
They went through that
we really don't
mist,
understand.
and then they're like, "How the hell did we get here?" Like, what?
Yeah, well, wherever that village is, though, like that's got to be a key trade point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's what I think too. Maybe there's a way to get through the sleeping mist without being affected by it, and it takes you to like one solitary port that's at the base of the tree that isn't plagued by like frozen tundra and stuff like that.
I think that was kind of insinuated with it. Like they don't know where the sleeping mist is at all times because it's not constantly surrounding the island. It's like moving. So you can get to Elbaf without passing through it. It's just kind of what would you say, up chance.
Yeah.
Very interesting. What I think is also really interesting is we're talking about this tree, and we're talking about Frankie's fascination with it, and Ripley tells us of, like you said, that Hogan village, which used to exist on a branch that was struck down by lightning, and they had to they chopped it off so that the fire couldn't spread to the rest of the tree. And I know like a lot of people bringing up Norse mythology, talking about how like in Ragnarok, like the world tree like catches ablaze, and there's like a whole realm of like Yggdrasil that is on fire, or it like represents fire. And so like this is like it's pretty interesting. And she even has like the craziest panel in my opinion, and I was exactly like Frankie. He's got his full jaw dropped right here, where she talks about that's Elbaf's biggest weakness is fire and lightning, and it's bolded up. And like I'm just like there is so much to theory craft off of this point.
Absolutely.
It's actually insane. Like my brain wrinkled while I was reading this. I was like, this is for me, this is probably my favorite speech bubble of the entire chapter. I'm not even gonna lie.
It has so much implications. I was waiting for you to get to it because my first thoughts went to Mother Caramel and her showing of like control of fire and why all the giants, you know, worship her with such reverence.
Oh yeah. With Pandora, which they heralded as a sun god.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Listen,
But then people showed
I'm
me
not gonna lie.
pictures of Big Mom, and I was like, oh my god, if she comes here, they're literally gonna think of her as the god of destruction, like she's been called, but a legitimate god of destruction.
A calamity.
Yeah, for real.
My first thought, sadly, I'm not gonna lie, I started losing it because I was like, imagine Enel and Sabo show up together.
Well,
I don't think Enel is too
my
much
first
of a
thought was-
partake.
Yeah, my first thought was adjacent to that actually, and it was something along the lines of like, okay, so if the personification of like fire and lightning within the story, it's the Mera Mera no Mi and the Goro Goro no Mi, obviously those two Logia fruits. So everyone thinks that Enel, there's been countless theories and people spitting about Enel potentially coming back, which I'm cool with. But again, I think Daksake, shout out to the homie, friend of the channel, I think he put it best in a recent video on his channel where he was talking about how Loki parallels enough with Enel that we kind of already have Enel back in the story to at least somebody who fits that similar role. But with Haruden, he had participated specifically in the Koraida Coliseum tournament on Dressrosa, gunning for the Mera Mera no Mi. So there's multiple kind of like pulls here. I feel like it's loose connections, but is this like possibly hinting that whatever Loki's fruit is, it's something semi-adjacent to these two Logias? And so that's like something that I've been kind of pushing around in my mind.
Conductor fruit, like he can just conduct heat or lightning, like electricity. I have to spit on this real quick. Knack, in the chat, you dropped down that Haugen is a Norwegian surname, place name frequently used for farm homesteads, and it derives from the Old Norse that means tiny hill, small grassy knoll. Listen, I'm about to go real tinfoil hat. Grassy knoll.
Don't do this.
The place where JFK was.
Stop.
Listen, this might be a hint that
No.
what we're saying about King Harold was right. That the
mute him.
the taking of his life was not who we think it is. Hashtag Loki did nothing wrong.
I'll leave the hashtag Loki did nothing wrong in.
No, you're leaving it
Loki
all in,
Harvey
baby.
Oswald.
No, but I'm really glad that Vex, you mentioned yeah, crazy. I'm glad you mentioned the Mera though, because the fact he sought that fruit out,
There were two giants.
is very specific, and the Goro probably more than likely came from this area of the world as well. So if we're looking at two fruits that possibly were here in the past and there's legends of them, then the third fruit could be another element.
Yeah, it could be. Well, you know, there's been a lot of like, what if there was like a plasma Logia? And like I said, I put it on my bingo card. I think a giant with a Logia would be cool. We've seen a lot of zones lately. I would love to see, like with Gunko, we got a very cracked Paramecia. And, you know, that our audience knows, you know, me and Vex both, we love us some cracked Paramecias. But I'd love to see more Logias because there's only about 13 or 14 in the story. And I would, if Loki has some kind of like plasma fruit, you know, plasma in and of itself is very destructive when used in the right setting. It can give off heat and things like that. Like, it's
my only issue with it, and like I do, it's kind of the predominant thought in my mind, is that this might be something fire and or lightning adjacent. But we've seen so many other powers that have been kind of adjacent to this as well. We've gotten like like with Oven, he has like a heat fruit, and that's different from fire. And then we have the Mera Mera and the Magu Magu, which is a Kainu's fruit. And so there's so many different tiers to like some sort of heat or fire or hot adjacent fruit that I'm like leaning more towards maybe lightning. And that does also fit with like with Loki and like Thor and like, you know, exactly. So I'm wondering if it's possibly like like you said, conductor. And I'm not even gonna lie, like I was thinking like charge, like like potential energy or something like that. And so like it's like maybe like the longer it stays inert, the more powerful it becomes, or so. I don't know. Like, but there's like some crazy cracked paramecia ideas that I've been pushing around. And
yeah, dude.
although I'm cool with it being a Logia, a lot of people complain that like, oh, we just saw Zoans. I don't care, dude. Whatever it's gonna be, I'm gonna be happy with it. But I think I would prefer a paramecia.
Yeah. You were saying something about, you know, like storing energy. What if it's like kinetic? Like he can store kinetic energy in himself, and
That is
like
Luffy.
that would be it's the way that Luffy works. So like it would
like
be a good mirror to Luffy.
Right.
Yeah. He's like a Newton's cradle. Like that's so cool.
Just
Oh,
clacking
man.
back and forth.
Yeah, I think that this one little text bubble here talking about fire and lightning, plus it's got Ripley right here and Frankie. I know that's your boy Lucas, and he's just like flabbergasted right here. And yeah, it's really crazy to just think about what all this could potentially imply, because I've had like 9 different theories and I just really cannot land on one. But
Yeah,
this,
like how does a single
this has
branch
to be
become
intentional.
so dry that it had to be cut off, right? If the one branch is dry, other branches should have been dry, unless there was a reason for
And
it
like
being
if
dry.
all of the branches yeah, if all of the branches are ignited, not only do we not have any more villages to live in, but then there's no more canopy creating the underworld. The underworld becomes just the world, right? So like I was just like, there's so much to this. A lot of people think this tree is coming down by the end of the arc. I don't know if I'm really subscribing to that, but hey, I mean, if we're talking about death flags, some of these branches are probably getting cold. That's what I don't know. But beyond just the destruction of this land, I feel like there's a lot more potentially to the arc, as well as the full story within just this little conversation here. So it's really interesting to me.
And before you get into
well.
you know, what we see the shenanigans with Usopp, we were talking earlier, like the underworld must be a place that keeps getting bigger as the canopy grows. You know what I mean? It didn't start as this giant frozen wasteland, but the sunlight can't get through anymore because of the canopy. So who knows how long ago it was that sunlight got down there, but there might be ruins of a forgotten age that might be even more spicy than the mural for all we know.
Well, think about Skypiea and Giant Jack. It pushed the bell all the way to the top of the Cloud Islands. Same thing. There could be an ancient civilization of Elbaf at the top of this tree. That could be what the Heaven Realm is. You know what I mean? Like the possibilities are endless. Moving to the next page. That one was a very spicy page. I'm not gonna lie though. And also, my boy Frankie.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah. I also think this is a very spicy page. No. We move on to Usopp enjoying the feast. When Nami arrives.
Enjoying is an understatement, bro.
Yeah, he's sloshed.
He's living.
He's having the time of his life. Yeah.
Yeah, he's on cloud 9 like right now. We love to see it.
I love Usopp's confidence here, though. You know, he's talking to Yarul. He's like, meet our genius navigator. And he's like, is she your type? And he says, what? I'm into older women, which is also spicy.
Hilarious, yeah.
No, yeah, and you know, there's a lot of discussion in the community already about what he meant by that, and Mother Caramel, maybe like she left an impression on him and formed his taste in women.
Right.
But
right.
It's Usopp here that I really want to focus on. It. You know, he jumps up, he smacks Yarul's sword, which is deadly. Like, let's be real.
Crazy.
Crazy. But this, I think, may prove a little theory that I'd cooked up with a friend of the channel, the Doctor of the Eternal Dawn, originally, Mr. Smoky Chopper, where Usopp has already achieved. He's already a brave warrior, He just lacks the belief and confidence in himself, and he is oozing confidence right now. So with that liquid courage, that's just enough to make him realize, yeah, he can slap around a giant a little bit, and he does. He literally causes pain to the oldest giant in the world, and even makes fun of him. Anyone want to try out pulling out Excalibur? Like, that is pure confidence right there.
I want to pause on this line though.
Yes,
This
go
is
ahead.
really important. We have to wait for officials now, but if this is how it's worded, the implications are that Usopp, the storyteller, knows of the story of Excalibur, and that is Oda's way of putting that Arthurian legend in the story without actually doing some symbolical reference to the Sword in the Stone or the Knights of the Round Table. This is kind of, if this is the wording specifically talking about the legend of Excalibur, then that means it's a canonical legend in the One Piece verse. And I just think that's a distinction we need to pay attention to.
No,
That
yeah,
or
I
he's
agree.
or he's a really big Soul Eater fan. Fools.
You fools! You
Fools.
I love him telling Dory to shut up as well. Like,
It's
shut
crazy.
up, Dory.
Man, he reminds
I
me
know.
of and I don't know if this is the first time we've seen him drinking, but he reminds me of a first drunk.
No,
It's
we've
not.
definitely seen him party pretty hardy before, but I really do think that it'd be interesting if we get like a bit of a drunken master arc from him, where he, his
Yes.
inhibitions are cast aside, due to maybe
liquid
dabbling
courage.
a little bit in the sauce, and
Mhm.
I don't condone it myself, but for his story arc, I think it would be similar to like a Rumble Ball pre-time skip, where it's like Chopper didn't want to rely on them, and there was a danger to overindulging on that kind of power, but then we got to a point where Chopper could master that power sans Rumble Balls, so I think it'd be
Yes.
interesting if we got like a little bit of that type of arc.
To
A
booze up
demon in the
his
bottle arc
observation
for
hockey.
Usopp.
He can drink it and like
Crazy.
time literally slows down, and like eventually he can tap into that himself.
That'd be
Oh my
crazy,
God.
actually. I want to talk about something very important in this panel, though. Dory's scolding Usopp, but the rest of the giants, like Brogy in the background, they're all smiling. And Hydruden is clearly, or not Hydruden, Yarul is clearly in pain. Like, he is like not having a good time, and everyone else is like, he's back the sword. And then Brook is wearing his head on his belt buckle.
Oh yeah, this panel is hilarious. But in terms of like the
It's so
clash
good.
of personalities, I think that's just Oda giving us, they all have similar beliefs, but they're all individuals, and they don't. It's
I
not
like
just
that.
cookie cutter about the giants. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that. Legitimately, Dory could just crush Usopp right now.
Oh, he's
The
so
restraint of this
disappointed in him.
man.
He's like,
What's-
you,
What's really
you.
Yeah, what's really a crazy implication is like Usopp's already regarded as an honorary giant, and he's welcome at their table, and they're eating up his stories and things like that, and that's cool. But maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I think that like him getting angry at Usopp slapping the sword and whatnot, it's not just about disrespect. I think it's recognizing Usopp's potential. Like it's like, hey, watch out, you could actually hurt him. So like maybe this is their way of saying that Usopp indeed scales to 5-year-old Lin Lin. So that's pretty cool.
Calamity, almost.
Let's go.
I'm sorry.
I guess it can't be helped though.
It really can't. No. Nami looks so exasperated with Brook. She's like, look who's talking. Like, he's like, oh, he's so drunk. The belt buckle head is killing me, guys. It killed me during my chapter reaction. It's killing me now. Like, it is so funny. Brook is just such a character, and I love him so much. I need more on Elbaf.
Yeah. He's
It
got the
feels
little
like we
shark
haven't gotten
guitar.
much.
Speaking of
But,
belt buckles, though, big old,
Jinbei.
Yep.
Big old Tito Jimbe over here, like with just letting the whole belly out pretty much. But I love this little moment of them just like brushing it off, like as like, oh, don't mind his antics because like he's earned this, you know, he's come so far to get to this point. So he, you know, a little bit of revelry, like, you know, we get it. It's to be forgiven.
This was his dream.
It's a sweet
I love
moment.
it all the way here.
I really love this panel.
Yeah. This made the chapter for me, guys. Like this, Usopp's face and how excited he is. Because like Nami said, you know, this is it. Ever since Little Garden, because he didn't really have a dream when they put their foot on the barrels. He said the Brave Warrior of the Sea thing kind of off the top of his dome. But once they hit Little Garden, he met the giants. This has been it. This is all he's wanted, is to get to Elbaf. And to see him as happy as he is, I just cannot wait to see what he does in the rest of the arc. And I feel like this is only the first step to him accomplishing his dream. Because I've been spitting that he's, you know, he's going to achieve his dream completely by the end of the arc. And I think that is even more so prevalent because of this panel.
And we've all like mentioned how nice it is just to see the Straw Hats to have a bit of time where they're not like fighting for their lives or you know, trying to get away from some natural disaster. So these little moments where you can just see him unwind are few and far between, but they're always super special, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, so do I.
It kind of tempered my expectations for what's to come, because although Oda has a way of trying to like accomplishing, not just trying, but you know, like constantly raising the stakes. Time and time again, arc after arc, and Egghead was the highest we'd seen it yet. So now that we have Holy Knights being introduced and looming very close to some of our Straw Hats and, you know, beloved main cast, it's really crazy because so much could happen here. But no matter what happens, I don't care if Usopp doesn't have this monumental flex and this crazy glow up and like this like new power up and like all this, like I mean, I know we can all expect it and it's cool because there's been lots of setup and implication, but like if this is the glowing moment that we get from him right here and right now, I'm totally fine with that as well. You know?
Yeah, because look how happy our boy is.
Yeah.
Look how happy he is, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And then we got Doofus there freaking out.
Yeah. Something's off. Where's Gert-chan? Me when she's not on any panels, and but where's Gert?
For real.
Yeah, but then we get like a little pan away to see what's going on with Gert, and she's after bringing the giant guards in and getting them treatment. So I guess this is confirmation. I don't know if we had direct confirmation before, but Gert is the doctor, right?
Yeah, in a cover story, there was confirmation.
Okay.
Well, it also showed us each of their roles when they were reintroduced here in Elbaf after she smacked Roto with her axe and they got out of the Lego castle. It showed each of their roles.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, so I love this little, you know, she's gonna fix him up and interrogate Roto at the same time. Because, like, you know, she's still part of the pirate crew, still wants to know what's going on.
I'm still convinced especially by this panel of Gerd and Roto side by side, is like Oda does not know how big a kilometer is, because like, is this actually to scale? Like Gerd is
crazy,
like half as tall as Roto, like, and like we are to believe that Ja Rule and Loki are like monumentally bigger than even, you know, Roto, but Roto is freaking huge. Like,
right.
This is crazy to me.
And the fact, like, they're talking about the level of damage done to these giants. Like, I know they've been in battles before. They've seen lots of damage. So being surprised a human could cause that kind of damage implies to me that something more than just, you know, a dangerous or a bad wound. It's like significant, something deeper.
Gunko. Yeah, Gunko did some damage.
But what if like they're also maybe like putting off a presence, or like their life energy has like stopped restoring or something, you know, that they really haven't seen before.
Yeah, because we've seen how Gunko's powers affect the physical body, but Paramecia's, when awakened and stuff, can obviously affect the metaphysical surroundings and everything that. So it could be that her power affects him in some way that can't be seen by the eyes as well.
Right.
I like that thought you just had about like maybe their life force is like it's not allowing them to heal as quickly as they may usually do.
Like, because I just find it odd that she'd be so surprised knowing that Shanks is such a, prolific figure in Elbaf. Like, they know there are humans out there capable of nasty work. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's just like it's either like extremely scaling the God's Knights higher than what Gerd knows of Shanks, or there's something else than just physical damage.
Sorry, their leg warmers are distracting me. I'm not gonna lie, like it. Why is that the fashion on Elbaf?
Because it's cold, man. What do you want them to do?
I think that it's really funny seeing Roto like kind of just completely okay. Like he's gotten to a point where he's like, I don't care if Loki gets free as long as like I'm not like lumped in and like to blame for this. And hopefully he just goes and like causes a ruckus elsewhere. But he is like fully like abandoned any like doubt. Like he's like, Loki is gonna get free.
Yeah, he's just like, I just don't want to be involved with the blame. Just nobody blame me, and I don't care anymore.
Yeah. The full arc, because he was like cosplaying as like the sun god, like at the beginning of all of this, and so like to see everything that he's gone through to get to this point, I don't think he'll ever be redeemed. He's a bozo, he's a scumbag, but it's entertaining to say the least.
Yeah, fun fact, I'm pretty sure he's been in every chapter since Elbaf started.
Crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
He's the real main character.
Who would have said that, right? Like, who would have said that going into it? Like,
Roto for Nakama?
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Don't. He's bigger than Gerd, man.
Genuinely,
Yo,
Roto is growing on me. I'm enjoying his character more now that like all that weird stuff is out of the way. Like when he was in the castle, like we brought it up earlier, and was like, "Am I gonna get possessed?" and stuff like that. I was like, "Oh my god, this dude's hilarious."
He's comic relief.
So if you've made it, if you made it this far into the video, hashtag Roto for Nakama in the comments. Don't give any context if people are like, "What?" Like just leave a comment. Let us know.
So
hashtag
you're gonna start a movement.
Like we did with free Loki.
Well,
Loki did nothing wrong.
We need a new free Loki, we'll get into that later, but we need a new hashtag, a new agenda to push. So
we got everybody on the free Loki agenda, I think. That message has been spread.
Speaking of Loki.
Yeah, let's get into the real heavy hitting stuff here, man. Holy.
It's
the realm
snowing.
of the unalive.
Yeah. No, this is serious stuff.
Crazy.
I just want to first bring context to the animals because they really are messed up down there. And if I know one thing about characters like Loki and Luffy, that's not going to be unanswered.
Yeah. No. They're going to make somebody pay for that.
But literally every single chapter, I'm just like constantly thinking like, surely we won't get back to that spicy little tidbit for like 10, 15, 100 more chapters. I don't know. Like, I feel like Oda's like conditioned us as readers at this point in time. And then the next chapter, hey, we're here.
Yeah. Well, this arc is really
crazy.
moving at like pre-time skip pace. Like it's insane how this and Egghead really moved so fast compared to Wano or Whole Cake or even Zoe.
Right.
It's a welcome change if I'm honest, but at the same time, Oda, I need time to breathe, baby. So Vex, I've heard Max take on this.
Lucas wants Oda to take more breaks. Take a month off.
I never said that.
Like,
I never said that. Never said that once.
He said, whoa.
Vex, I've already heard Knack spit on this a little bit, and him and I will get into it as we hear your thoughts. What do you think about this interaction between Luffy and Zoro?
I think it's like we were mentioning, you just said like pre-time skip. This is a little bit reminiscent of the times where Luffy hadn't really came into the role of being a captain, and Zoro was a little harder on him, like whiskey mid. And I think that this is Zoro kind of mirroring those sentiments, but instead of it being about being a captain, it's more about being a Yonko. And so I think that it's necessary. A lot of people have been like, it's very uncharacteristic of Zoro. I completely disagree. I think that this is stuff that we've seen before. Luffy is somebody who is more or less, for all intents and purposes, to anybody but his friends, an unstoppable force. And at times, Zoro has no issue being like the immovable object in his path. And I'm here. I'm here for it. I think this is necessary and not at all something that we're foreign to, you know.
Yeah, I actually said something almost verbatim to that. I think this really feels like pre-time skip Zoro, specifically like Eni's lobby, Water 7 Zoro, where, you know, he's not questioning Luffy as his captain, but he's making sure that Luffy's making the right choice because he is his captain. And like you said, they're Yonko crew now. They have more of a responsibility to the entire world because Yonkos are basically, you know, they're emperors. They are seen as, you know, forces to be reckoned with. And if a pirate shows up to an island, yeah, exactly. Like if a pirate shows up to an island, I'm gonna do this and that and this and that, and they're no name. Everyone's gonna be like, no, you're not. But if an emperor shows up, everyone's gonna be like, okay, yeah, you do that, and we will help you do that.
Yeah, and I think it makes a lot of sense as well because Luffy has spent a lot of the story a little bit oblivious to the waves that they make. And it's like there were times where we believed that he might have been a character kind of without consequence, and then all post time skip and a little bit of pre-time skip as well, we started to see some of that reputation come back to him. You know, like Bardo is like, oh, Luffy senpai, and he's like completely like the whole, like we've seen so many different characters like Cavendish as well, and now like Dory and Brogy, who we met before they had garnered this whole reputation. So it's like, and now we see them after the fact, like regarding them as something much more grander. And it's really interesting when we get like kind of this. Luffy still hasn't grasped that, but clearly a lot of the other crew members have. And
I think Zoro's and Robin, like
Usopp as well, because like with Usopp, his first knee-jerk reaction was cowardice, you know, back in like previous arcs where even before the official emperor title, but like there were so many different like moments where we've seen other crew members kind of cognizant of the waves that they make. But this is typical of how Zoro reacts in that kind of Luffy's obliviousness, you know. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, Knack, I need to hear your take though, and the audience needs to hear your take on this interaction between Zoro and Luffy.
Well, I actually don't think there's anything I disagree with what you said there. The problem I see is the other aspects as we get further down, like Zoro lashing out and striking a chained up, beaten man, or suggesting to, you know, what would we say? Dine on the guests. Yeah. Yeah, those are the things that are really out of character, I find, for him. I don't actually think the clash with him and Luffy's out of character. I think they butt heads more often than not. I don't think they ever really are on the same page unless it's about a fight. And as we go further down,
liberating a country.
Yeah, like they really
same thing.
They have they've always clashed. Like, and that's the one thing I will stand on. Like, them arguing is going to be a part of the thing. That doesn't mean anything. The reason why he is where he is because he keeps Luffy in check a lot of the time. So when it comes to that, I really have nothing to say. But he's being a little cautious. I understand his opinions on that, but the coldness to striking Loki and suggesting what they have for lunch was really weird. I found. I don't know. What's your thoughts on those two aspects in particular? Because
so with striking Loki, I kind of agree. Like it's not Zoro has a tendency to like he'll joke about doing mean things.
He
like
lashes out a lot recently, right?
Yeah. And yeah, he's been a little bit more aggressive lately. So to see him attack Loki, who is chained up, like Zoro's very much not that type of person. That's the one part of this whole thing that I find uninteresting.
I don't know.
Because
if I can butt in. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So the reason I find it uncharacteristic is because Zoro is a follower of the Bushido. Like, I know you look a lot into him calling Luffy pathetic, and you and I have had many discussions on it, Knack, about how I feel like it's just him being like, he's not living like to the Bushido code, you know what I mean? If I say it one more time, someone's gonna show up and spit a carrot theory at me. But anyway, it kind of goes against his code of honor to hit a opponent who is chained, you know what I mean, imprisoned. And that's the part that kind of I'm like, what are you doing, Zoro? But yeah, go ahead, Vex.
I think that he has kind of shown time and time again, multiple times, even very, very early, soon after his introduction and in East Blue, how cavalier he is about the concept of not being alive. So like when he, there's been several occasions where he has came close and had like near-death experiences, and he's like, hey, if I die, I die. And so he's had that, and I feel like him saying that here about Loki is a little bit of a test, in that it's like, okay, so if he is a serious opponent, then he's not gonna die, and then we're fine. If he is somebody who can't handle this, then he's not a serious opponent. And so it's inconsequential. So in him like exercising this, it kind of just reinforces how kind of cavalier he is about death, but it also kind of recognizes Loki as a serious opponent in Zoro's mind. So I think it's interesting. I think that the interaction could have been fleshed out a little different or more, and it could have been framed a little different. I don't know. With what we got, it is a little weird, but I can understand it from what we've gotten from Zoro's character time and time again. Right.
It almost seems like a gag scene, and you don't really get them from Zoro much. You know what I'm saying? Just with the Luffy reaction.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I feel like if we had just a little bit more context, right? Like if Zoro's thinking, I think he's faking being passed out right now, I'm gonna kick him and see it. Like,
yeah, right? Like that could be a funny scene. Done well.
Exactly. And I think that's how it was supposed to play out, but like we're just missing that little bit of context. I think once you said gag, that's when I was like, oh yeah, I see what you're saying. But then we have this thing where like Luffy's like, oh my god, he's gone, and Zoro's like, well, if he's gone, that was simply his fate. And Luffy calls him a jerk. But see, when I see this, right, like if he's gone, that's simply his fate, it reminds me of him being cold and being like, they look like jellyfish, when Caribou's whole crew was floating away in the ocean. Like that's what it. Same with when he was talking about attacking. It's same vibe. That's how I always read Zoro. Like try hard, edgelord. That's
he's done it to himself. Like when he was showing off with facing off with Mihawk, and when he was facing against Kuma and things like that, he has been very casual about like, hey, if it happens, it happens.
It's kind of like if it happens, it was meant to happen. Yeah,
like letting fate kind of guide and things like that. And that's actually like really Gunko adjacent, after we kind of got a little bit of the fleshing out of like her her devil fruit, so that's like really interesting to me as well. But it's not something that we haven't seen Zoro do several times in the story, is him just being like, hey, it is what it is, you know. And like,
Yeah.
I kind of vibe, like, I don't know if it was necessary, but I'm not like against it, you know what I mean, how he behaved here.
What's crazy too to me is, like, you know, Zoro does go along with the plan. He's like, we're gonna unlock him. Zoro using his brain a little bit, because he's also big head impy sometimes, and saying, you know, let's leave the sea stone cuffs around it so that he can't use his devil fruit on us. But I think the spiciest part of this conversation actually comes from the start of the next page, when Zoro says, if we free him, they'll banish us. And Luffy says, then we'll be banished. We have no choice. And it's that line. We have no choice. It's like, why not? We need that context between what Luffy and Loki talked about and why Luffy decided to free him. Because if he feels like he has no choice, then there's
That's
something
pretty loaded
important.
thing to say. And it's bolded out too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Kube has been spinning for weeks now that, you know, there's more to that conversation. There's more, and I mean, all of us. And I think that just goes further to, like, you know, put the last nail in the coffin, that there's definitely more to that, the terms of why he's freeing Loki, than what we know.
I do want to speak on the one sea stone cuff left, but before we get to that, we have a crew of giants falling from the sky into the underworld.
Goldberg's face. He's like, why did I let Hydrogen talk me into this?
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Him and Roto. Roto also looks terrified.
And
with
Luffy
him falling in
saves
the
him,
sky,
you know
though.
what I mean?
Yeah, do you know what this reminds me of, right?
Marineford?
Marineford, yeah. Like,
Absolutely.
it makes me think, with Luffy saving them, if Luffy's like, oh, I've seen this before. I've done this before. Like, I know how to stop this. I've thought about this before.
But not just that, look at the smile on Harden's face when he sees Luffy. Strong! Yeah, this beautiful moment. It's like a little touching reunion between subordinates and commander, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really sweet. But
it is.
yeah, so she forced Roto to spill the beans. Roto apologizes, but he starts screaming. He's like, you can't trust Loki. He's ruthless. He's cunning, black-hearted, beyond redemption. Ever since we were kids, even when he did or said something nice, it was all a lie, implying that he did do nice things. There was parts of him that were, like, not all bad. Hashtag free Loki. And Loki's a threat to the entire world. And then Zoro, you know, casually scratches his forehead and says, you're too late.
Yeah. Before we get to the epic last panel, I do have to say too. Yeah. Two things. First up, when Hydruden's saying all this, Luffy looks like he's like, crap. I think I messed up. Second, Hydruden bowing to Luffy immediately and like trying to plead with him. This isn't someone he sees it. To me, when I see this moment, it strengthens the fact that Hydruden is Luffy's subordinate. He sees Luffy as his like leader. If there's any man that he can follow, to the point where he's pleading now to the person that he sees as a leader. Yeah, don't do this.
He's not trying to fight him.
Yeah, and that is so impactful, especially knowing Hydruden's royal lineage and his just because there's no really other term for this, but he is a bastard. And so having that and having to prove yourself even more to be like worthy of being called the king. You know, he wants to be the one who unites all of the giants. He wants to be king of the giants. I feel like this is very important for Hydruden to kneel like that to someone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. But we come to this epic panel, and I do want to touch on this very quickly because it's about leaving the one sea stone cuff on there, and it's an idea that I've kind of been cooking on, and I may sit down and write up a full theory on it. perhaps people in the comments can let me know what they think. But for now, I'll just give the oversight that I think the devil fruit Loki stole from his father is in that weapon, Ragnar.
So do I.
And I think the way he was chained was, it's not just Loki was chained up, he was chained up and Ragnar was locked to the tree as well. And the first thing Harridan says is like, Loki put Ragnar down, as if Ragnar is the issue here, not the fact that Loki's free. And I suspect next chapter he's going to turn around and smash these cuffs on his leg with that hammer like it's nothing, because the cuffs being on him are not the problem. The cuffs holding back the hammer were the intention.
Yeah.
And it leads into
there's
a deeper idea of 3 devil fruit weapons from before all this began, but I'll save that for another time.
Yeah. It too, like, think about the fact that this devil fruit that was passed down through the ancient family, or through the royal family, has been passed down for hundreds of years.
Right.
If Vegapunk learned how to put devil fruits into objects from them, that could be the case, because maybe maybe the royal devil fruit was already in an object, and it has been, and it stayed in that object the entire time, and that's how it was passed down. It wasn't necessarily just the devil fruit, but you also get Ragnar as well.
Yeah, well, I'd like to think that there's multiple ways. Like, there's an ancient way, and then like there was a natural way, and then a way the ancient people figured out how to do it, and then a way Vegapunk figured out how to, like, you know, artificially do it. Because this, like, the way we seen Cerberus transform wasn't like Funkfried. Funkfried had a full-blown zone transformation, and Cerberus came out of a blade, like almost like a spirit manifesting. And I suspect if there is going to be another one, and perhaps even Griffin is one as well, that these are more ancient and more primordial than devil fruits even.
Yeah, I think that, for one, I'm here for it, because not only does that mean I get to check something off of my bingo card, but it's also a really interesting concept. And I've thought for the longest time that we could really, it'd be so cool to get more devil fruit weapons. As somebody who has done a lot of One Piece D&D and things like that, it's one of the funnest things to, like, kind of theory craft on and kind of mechanically, like, dive into, is like, what would be like a really cool object that had like a really cool devil fruit that fits it. And it's like, then you wouldn't have any of the weaknesses that, you know, a typical devil fruit user would. But I don't know if I fully believe that this weapon here would be a prime candidate, although I'm not against it. I don't have anything to, like, you know, to push back. It's just, I think that I think that it would make a little bit more sense to me if it was within Loki himself, because couldn't anybody have just picked up the weapon? You know, like, if it were just the weapon that was the issue.
Right. Perhaps there'd have to be some sort of like selected chosen wielder mechanic or something in there, and we haven't got context for that.
Like,
either
like we just mentioned Excalibur, and so like maybe like a sword in the stone type of situation here. Maybe I could see that coming into play, which would be really, really interesting. But I don't know. I think that it just kind of goes to show how swole, you know, guy is being able to stand up still partially under the effect of Sea Stone, because like Luffy and Kid were shackled in Sea Stone in Udon, and we were told in Act 2 of Wano that there's different levels of like how you can be affected by Sea Stone, and you're still able to move. You just aren't really able to activate powers unless unless the percentage of Sea Stone is so small. But I'm assuming they would kind of spend the big bucks and get like the good stuff for such a heinous criminal that they all don't want freed. So I'm assuming this is the good stuff, especially because when Luffy just touched it, he immediately had a reaction, right?
He was like, Zoro, I need your help. Yeah.
So I think that whatever flex we're about to see in the coming chapters and coming events that follow this, I don't think we're actually going to get to see the devil fruit power immediately. I think it's just going to be raw flexing. You know what I mean?
I think so as well. But I do want to say, while we're on the hammer, the fact that it's still silhouetted, like I don't think it's a solid black hammer like we're shown in the panel we see. I think there's going to be something more to it. Maybe some runic symbols, maybe something akin to what we saw with the tattoo that leads into the abyss and things like that. I think there's definitely something more to that hammer, even
I
if it's
seen
not
the
a devil fruit.
funniest idea yesterday on Dax
Luffy
live
list.
stream. No, it was that
Oh.
the mention of Excalibur was like referring to this hammer, and it's actually a sword stuck in the stone. But Loki's such a Chad, he just picked up the stone with the sword. Yeah,
Wow.
I thought it was
Love that.
hilarious. Genius. But yeah, this is peak. There's a beautiful comparison someone posted yesterday in the community of Luffy after he's shattered Arlong Park, of the camera angle shooting up at him in the same sort of shadowed silhouetted form. And you know, this is like the awakening of another sun god, and you know, a direct parallel like that to when Luffy really took down another crew, like shattered them and left them in pieces. I think he's going for revenge on his pets, though. I think they're going to be like Loki, like freak out, and he's not even going to give him the time of day. I think he's out of here. He's like, I gotta go get my licks back for what just happened.
Vex had mentioned Udon prison, and we saw that Luffy straight ripped off some sea stone cuffs in Udon prison. So even if he doesn't use the hammer to do that, if he has hockey that's strong enough, and like Rio, he can rip that thing off. Like,
Oh yeah, no
Right.
sweat.
Right, agreed.
Like-
Oh, agreed. Yeah. Harden being the one to give us context of Loki's character is probably the breadcrumbs for the potential Harden Loki flashback, where we see where these feelings come from. But you know, where do you guys think we go from here? Do you think we get to see the outcome of this? Do you think everybody in the village is going to know this happened as soon as it happened, due to like some release of hockey maybe, or presence?
I'm not sure.
Honestly,
I don't think we'll. Oh. I don't.
You go ahead. I'm gonna pivot, possibly.
Okay.
That was sweet.
I don't think we'll see this. I don't think we'll see the exact follow-up of this next chapter. We might get a couple panels at the beginning of the chapter. I think we'll
Fair.
the Owl Library, and it'll be a whole chapter about Bibelo. There will be no Straw Hats in it at all. It'll just be him.
Yeah, well, we never got
making
any
bigger.
right there.
any
No,
follow
that
up
doesn't
on the
matter.
God's Nights either.
No, that's what I'm saying though. Is I think we'll go back to the Owl Library, and chapter will probably be Saul and Robin and Chopper talking about the books and whatnot, and then we'll, towards the end of the chapter, get toward the school being under attack, and
Right.
Ange being
Hear
revealed
me out.
as a God's Knight.
Okay.
Mm.
Wild. Hear me out.
I have to
okay,
represent for
so
3
when we were at like a critical mass point, and we had heard that, you know, like an elder star themselves had dropped down at Egghead, and shit was getting so real, and there was the looming potentiality of more touching down, and like this was the like the full like climax, like everything is hitting the fan. What did we do in Egghead? Where did Oda take us? He took us down memory lane. we had a full flashback. What did we do? We went to several different islands to see what was going on with this emperor or that emperor, and we saw, you know, different characters, you know, and I feel like if this isn't a critical mass moment for this arc, one is coming soon. So, and I really can't predict, do we get more interaction from, you know, what's going on with the Atom Tree with Frankie, or do we see what's going on in the Owl Library like Holy Knights, you know, touchdown with Robin and Biblo, or do we go back to the feast, or do we, you know, see like a Scopper cutaway or something like that? Like, do we see any of that stuff? No. What I am going to say, and I'm going to keep saying it, is that we're going to get Cross Guild. because I need to speak it into existence. We're gonna cut away from all of this action mid.
Moria has joined Cross Guild.
I think.
Okay, wild.
Yeah,
no,
well,
but we're
aside
at
from
the
that,
top of the roller coaster. Like the roller coaster has been climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing, and we right before we veer over the tippy toppy peak right here and start to plummet downwards at full speed ahead, I think we're gonna cut away again because we did that. Maybe that's Oda's
we're gonna get
thing,
Bonnie.
Final Saga.
We're gonna get Bonnie and Kube at Vegapunk's makeshift lab.
Well, I think
but if we think about
but I
it,
think
there's so much other things that can happen. We could see Neomads, we could see the Revolutionaries, we could see Cross Guild. Cross Guild is something we haven't seen other than one or two little panel features. Pre-Egghead, like we haven't really gotten any like meaningful interaction from them.
Remember the Seraphim, the dopey Seraphim? Moria, oh my god, the Moria Seraphim both showed up at Empty Bluff, and we're
that
like
one panel though.
Yeah,
you know what I
mean?
mean.
We haven't seen anything after that.
No, but other than one panel, we haven't gotten a meaningful interaction from over an arc. It's been over an entire arc. So I'm just gonna keep saying it because there's so many other things that can happen. And I feel like we are reaching critical mass. I think we're gonna get some Cross Guild. I don't think they're showing up here, but I think we'll cut away to them. You know what I mean?
I respect.
Like I said, cover story will end with Yamato joining Cross Guild.
I do want to.
Whitebeard.
That's not too crazy, but I don't think it'll happen personally. But it's not a crazy take.
You guys just don't see the vision. The Straw Hat vision.
I'm glad you did mention that because I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I am feeling like they're building up to a cutaway. That's why I asked you guys, where do you think we go from here? Because this is like a natural, like a natural climax to a certain degree. Like, so we cut away so we can rebuild the tension, and this is what Oda is famous for. You know, we keep building tension until we get a climax of multiple storylines. So I think this is
giving us too much. We've been eating too good here on Elbaf. Like we just got so many reveals and left kind of hanging in suspense on some of them. This is literally the perfect and natural way to, like how we've seen Oda do before, to go see something else that has been left. It's been left on the back burner for like damn near 100 chapters at this point. Like I need to see like a meaningful Cross Guild interaction. And I also have it on my bingo card that we get Mihawk's first named attack. I need to see that this year. So soon, you know, I don't think it's going to happen. Like, I mean, it could happen this next chapter. I don't think it's going to happen this next chapter, but I'm just going to keep saying it every single chapter until it does. And I'm going to just keep pushing that goalpost.
Yeah, I do agree. This is a good point to pivot to another storyline and then bring them both together.
Well, see, that's why, like, I think the Owl Library is probably a good guess, like I'd said. But I do think with what Hydruden had said about, you know, even when we were kids, Loki, even if he did something nice, the fact that he brought up when they were children, it feels like we're about to enter Hydruden Loki flashback.
Yeah,
like,
those are totally
like
the breadcrumbs for something like that, for sure.
Exactly. Maybe next chapter, like, first few panels is Hydruden looking at Loki and being like, don't do it, don't do what you did back then, and then all of a sudden it, like, we're in the flashback, you know what I mean? Like, it's classic Oda. He's gonna say, Loki, I love you.
Playing.
He's gonna say, I hate you.
He flashes back to Loki on a swing.
Oh,
the borders of the panel are all foggy, and then there's, you know,
I shoot it, me and you, like we're not so different.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness. No, for real, I love it though. I think we're gonna get more context on the relationship between the between the
I
three
used to
of them
sit on the
too.
branch. You know the
Between
branch.
Loki and Howden and Roto, we're gonna see their interactions a bit more.
Yeah, because Kube has brought up several times, you know, with brothers, there's usually a third, like Tamir, Luffy, Sabo, and Ace. And I kept saying that I think Roto is it. That with what we saw of how young him and Hydruden joined forces, like, I really think that listen, like I said, Roto is growing on me. I know he started out as like this creepy dude who was kidnapping humans, but like
you could have him.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Him. That's all I'm saying. Like, but
he reminds me of Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Wild. One thing that I think is like kind of needed is we need some characterization from Goldberg, because like right now he has just about as much personality as a Shield. Yeah, I'm just gonna be completely real. I know it's your boy. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but we've gotten really significant interaction from Roto, like we were just mentioning, and from Gerd, who I think, you know,
and
is becoming one of my absolute favorites. And we've literally gotten interaction from, you know, pretty much we've got more interaction from Ange than we have from Goldberg. Like, I need this guy to like give me something, because I don't know I don't know if he's even spoken a full sentence outside of him shit talking Roto right outside of the Legoland Palace, you know. So like, I really don't know if we've gotten anything meaningful from him, or maybe I'm just like forgetting it. But I really hope we get that, because everyone else seems so well done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I need a scene with him and Nami, and him showing Nami like, or him and Sanji, and him showing Sanji some like Elbaf recipes. You know what I mean? Like that would just be peak.
Agreed.
So I think this leads us to, guys, final thoughts and ratings. Nak, why don't you start us off?
Oh man, I did give this chapter a very high rating, but a lot of it comes from the implications being said. A lot of the stuff is you know, we can't come to conclusions, but it's fun to think about what this could mean. You know, the stuff with the branch I found very interesting. Fire and lightning being the weakness of Elbaf, I found super interesting. Yarul being into older women, obviously it's the title, it's very important. I think we're gonna find out some more about that. And of course the Loki stuff just was a nice bow on top. I'd give the chapter a solid 9. I think that's the highest rating I've given in a while.
Yeah,
you think Kureha's inbound?
Inbound?
That's what the older women stuff's about.
I don't think she's inbound. Unfortunately, I don't remember exactly when it was, but I know she was featured in the Decks of the World during Egghead, so I don't think she's making it there that fast.
They're gonna time it with this alleged live action season 2. Apparently there's a live action. Have you heard this? Have you heard?
Oh
this?
my god! But, really? Tell me more.
Have you heard about this?
They're gonna time it. So as soon as Kureha's trending in like live action, she's also gonna be trending in the manga. I'm calling it now. No, I'm trolling. 9 is very high. Like I'm not.
Yeah, what'd you rate it?
I'm a little more harsh, I guess, on like, I believe in utilizing the full scale. If we're gonna be grading it out of 10, some stuff's gonna be a 2, some stuff's gonna be like a 3, like the Legoland chapters, you know. I honestly think that this chapter to me is verging on kind of mid. I'm not even gonna lie. There are 2 specific panels that I think are carrying, and that's why I grade it a little bit above like a 5. I'm putting it at like a 6.7, and it's mostly because of the text bubble that we get from Ripley talking about fire and lightning, and this last huge panel of Loki. If it weren't for those 2 like snippets, this would be like maybe a 5 for me. It didn't feel like much happened. It's some stuff that's cool, but nothing that I really feel like is necessary outside of those 2 moments, because we've just been getting like a lot lately, and I feel like for most of this chapter we didn't get much outside of these 2 specific moments. So for me, I can't really give it much more than a 6.7.
Yeah, I see you're standing on it. I really do. This is the 3rd chapter I'm giving it 10 out of 10 to.
Whoa.
For Elbaf.
It couldn't be improved.
Crazy.
I mean, there's one thing, like if I'd found some stuff out about the ancient, a little bit more about the mural, it is a 10 for me, and I'll explain why. A few things. Usopp is my 3rd favorite Straw Hat, and getting to see him in that moment and as happy as he is in that line specifically, like I said earlier about Nami being like, this has been his dream, and Jinbei saying like, you know, you can tell like Usopp's accomplishing his dream, right? And seeing him as happy as he is, confident, and being confident and everything, it really, really hit for me. And then the moments between Zoro and Luffy, once again, it reminds me of why I love their relationship and why I love the dynamic between Zoro as a vice captain and Luffy as the captain. So that really hit for me well. Same with like seeing Nami. This and you know, being back to her like money hungry ways and that. When you get a chapter that's full of all of the Straw Hats, like I think the only two we didn't see were Chopper and Robin, because obviously whatever's going on with them is going to be very important. But whenever we get these chapters where it's a lot of character moments for the Straw Hats like that, it means the most to me. It's like you said, it's a bit of brevity from how crazy it's been. And then with everything that happens between Hydruden and Luffy falling out of the sky like I said, that moment where he kneeled to Luffy was very impactful.
Yeah, I'm glad you highlighted it, because I literally brushed past it myself. I didn't take notice of it, but it is very important.
Yeah, this chapter it really, really hit almost every single one of my boxes. And I was gonna give it a like 9 out of 10, but then with that Usopp moment and sitting here and thinking really hard about that moment where Nami, like I said, going back to it, but it's because it hit me so hard. Her saying, you know, this has been his dream. This is the first Straw Hat to achieve his dream, basically. And I've been preaching that for a while. And to see it come to fruition, man, does that hit.
I think there's a lot of decent moments. Like I was saying, it's just, to me, this feels like it's a setup chapter. And for me, the highest I can give setup chapters is like an 8. Unless it's like the mother of all setup chapters, it's not gonna really ever get like above an 8, or even like it has to be really, really, really good for me to even get an 8. Give a setup chapter an 8 in the first place.
Yeah.
And I just, in the midst of all of the different payoff that we've gotten, and there's been a lot of other setup chapters as well, it's just, I just feel like I don't know. I like the chapter. Like 5 is not even a bad rating. It's just average in my opinion. And this is above average, but I'm not blown away by it. And these moments might grow on me a little bit more as time progresses and through a reread, but I'm not, like I said, I'm not blown away. I'm impressed, but I'm not, I'm waiting for, like, I don't know, maybe I'm spoiled by the mural or by Saul and Robin's, you know, reintroduction.
Hey,
and
those are the other
stuff
two
like
10 out of 10s.
Lucas, I've heard you give like 9 different chapters 10 out of 10s recently. I've heard you give a chapter an 11. I've heard you give it a 1,000 out of 10 recently. So I was like, but
was it the mural chapter? I feel like it was.
You've said it at least 4 times. I'm not even lying. Like,
yeah, but
you gotta
in an official capacity, this is the only the third of LBAP
okay,
that I will rate 10 out of 10.
He's rewriting history, guys.
I am. 1,000 out of 10. That rating never existed.
Crazy. I don't know. I think like I said, we are approaching, if not at, a critical mass, and that's really, really cool. But we're like in this moment before the roller coaster hits the full peak, and so we're still just suspended in anticipation and suspense, you know, like, for lack of a better word. And I'm hooked, absolutely, but I reserve my 10s for like
10s
channels that are like chapters that like completely change the entire future of the story, or for like some of the payoff, like on the scale of the other 2 chapters we just mentioned with like Robin and Saul and like the mural and things like that. So like I just can't give it much higher than a 6.7. When officials drop, maybe it bumps up to a 6.9. We'll see if there's a little bit more context given. Yeah.
I get it. Absolutely. And
alrighty.
yeah, I mean that was the chapter, but I don't really have anything else to say about that. I do want to mention how excited I am for the newest theory that's going live on the channel soon. I know you got a lot to say about that, Lucas. So, yeah.
I do. Yes. Should be dropping this week, hopefully before the next chapter, because we do believe it is relevant to the current events of the series. 3 Day worked very hard on the script. You'll see my lovely face reading out the theory for you guys. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Maybe hinting at a forbidden style of devil fruit. Maybe Blackbeard's first fruit. Maybe the original royal family fruit. Who knows? I guess you'll have to watch the theory to find out. But with that, we have been the Eternal Dawn crew. If you've made it this far in the video, like we said earlier, hashtag Roto for Nakama. Vex, you want to take us out?
Yeah, we'll see you at the next sunrise.